Hey guys, my name is Scoby and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at and reviewing the Elgato HD60S Plus capture card. Let's jump right into this. So this video is brought to you by me. Today I'm going to be sponsoring my own video with my new merch line. This is going to be the first t-shirt I'm going to be launching for the channel. It's a very nice quality print that you can get from Teespring. Everything is linked right below the video here and all videos on my channel. It comes in a number of different colors. You can get it in a hoodie, different women's style t-shirts, stickers. It'll definitely support the channel if you can check it out and I'd really appreciate it. Let's jump right into the video. So the first thing we're going to be doing is taking a look inside the box and seeing everything we get inside. So opening the box up, we actually don't get a lot here, but you also don't need a lot. We get the capture card itself. We get an included 2.0 HDMI cable that will be able to do 4K 60 FPS. That's important to keep in mind. And we also get a USB to USB-C cable along with some documentation and an Elgato sticker. And I'm really glad to see this has gone with a USB-C cable. The actual capture card itself is made of a really nice quality and it has a nice soft rubber mesh on the bottom that will stop it wobbling and rocking a lot, and it's a good size overall. I feel like it's a nice level, and we do have some LED indication lights here on the top depending on what's actually being read and transmitted into the camera, if it's getting a good signal, a bad signal, or if input or output are giving you issues. So on the input side we actually have 3 ports. We have a microphone in, we have a HDMI in, and we have a USB-C in. Flipping it around we have a HDMI out. Now in terms of system specs you will need for this to record at 1080p and kind of take this footage in smoothly, you do need a relatively powerful system. However, you can also do this on a good laptop if you've got something relatively decent, although it is recommended to have a graphics card here as well. So in terms of specs, it is recommended to have at least a 6th gen i5 CPU or an AMD Ryzen 7 or better. In terms of a graphics card, they recommend a 10 series or better. In this case, I've been testing it on my laptop, which has an i5 7600 and a 1070, and I also tested it on my actual desktop here, which has a Ryzen 3700s and an AMD 5700 XT, which didn't seem to give any issues for me, although I would recommend keeping to the minimum specs here. Now first off the bat, plugging this in, we don't need to install any drivers. Everything worked automatically in Windows. I've not tested Mac or Linux, so your experience may vary, so that's something to keep in mind. And I was using the 4K capture utility, although I did test it in OBS just to see how it worked, and it worked just fine, and I was able to bring in 1080p 60 FPS footage without any issues. So it's a really simple setup overall. You simply need to connect your HDMI in to any source that you would like. So in this case from your PS4, in this case to the actual Elgato. We then connect the USB-C cable from our PC to the Elgato itself, and then on the other side we simply get another HDMI out and connect that to our TV or monitor or anything else you're using, and that's it. After that you can connect it to any software you would like or the Elgato software itself, and then you can start recording, streaming, or anything else you would like. It's a really simple setup process. Actually, there's no drivers to install. Plugging this in made it work directly for me. So in terms of HDMI pass-through here, we actually get a 2.0 pass-through completely through this device, so you can pass through up to 4K 60 frames per second with this Elgato. However, we can only record 4K 30. However, to use that, the supported recording resolutions are 4K 30, 1080p 60, 1080p 30, 1080i, 720 60, 576p, and 480p. So these are the only resolutions you can do with this capture card. You cannot do anything in the middle, for example 1440p or any sort of ultra wide resolutions. You can only do what is stated here, which is a little bit disappointing to see. However, this is really kind of aimed for 16:9 4K console players. So for the current generation of the PS4 and then the next generation with PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S. Really confusing naming structure. And now to come back to recording at 4K 30 FPS, this can only be done when your output signal is specifically locked to 4K 30 FPS. So that means connecting this up to a PlayStation 4 Pro will not allow you to record at 4K 30 FPS. Now sadly I don't have an Xbox One X to test this with, although I doubt that would work as well, as it needs to be fixed at that resolution. So because the PS4 Pro outputs at 4K 60, it means you can only record at 1080p 60. Even setting the output source from the Elgato to 4K 30 in the software, the 4K capture utility, you can still only record at 1080p 30, which is much worse than 1080p 60. So that's a little bit disappointing to see. However, for most people, I think this is all you will need to do, especially if you're just going to be streaming. You do not need a 4K resolution taking directly into this, and you do still have the 4K 60 pass-through outputs. However, I will just put an asterisk here. You can really only record at 1080p 60 and or stream at 1080p 60 with this capture device, which is a little bit disappointing. I feel the marketing here is a little bit off. However, it's still a really nice capture device for what you're getting. Recording with this is really nice, and the 4K capture utility, at least the current version that I've been using, has been really stable. It's literally plug and play. I plugged this device in, downloaded the capture utility, it recognized it within a second, there was no messing around. It was really nice to see. So the Elgato also features a lag-free mode that apparently has very little latency on the preview window on your actual computer screen. So in theory you could play from this, and I found that it is really lag-free. It's a very quick response time, although it's a little bit behind where you would be on your actual output using the out on the HDMI here on the actual Elgato. So I wouldn't recommend playing on it directly, especially if you're playing some fast-paced games, but if you're doing turn-based or any sort of Pokemon or Nintendo Switch game, you can no problem play on the actual preview resolution on your computer and record directly to that without actually having to have an extra screen. So overall, the HD60S Plus is a really nice package. You get pretty much everything needed in the box, and it is nice that we include a HDMI 2.0 here as well. So as long as you have another 2.0 or 2.1, you can output to 4K 60 without any issues directly through this device. So that is nice to see. The included USB-C cable in the box is really nice to see, and the package is really small, especially compared to some other capture cards. So it's really non-distinct. You can really put it behind somewhere, put it on your desk without taking up too much space. One thing I would like to see is maybe all ports being on one side. In this kind of package, it's not possible. However, it would maybe be a little bit cleaner, and it would be nice to have some buttons on here to use for quick shortcuts. Although I know they have other devices that record directly onto the capture card with buttons, so maybe they don't want to tread too much close to that market to separate them completely. But overall, I'm really happy with the package that we have here. If you are going to be streaming, I would recommend using OBS or something that's not the Elgato 4K software, just so you can customize it a bit more and get exactly what you need out of it. Well, I'd recommend this for actually quite a few people, especially streamers. You're not going to be streaming anything higher than 1080p 60 in most cases, unless you're doing something crazy. So this is nice to have, especially for the future consoles, because it has the 4K 60 pass-through. So even though you're only getting a 1080p signal out of this, you can still really easily still enjoy the 4K 60 FPS on the pass-through for this, especially for the future PS5 and the Xbox Series coming in the future. However, if you actually want to record 4K footage, this is not for you. But if you're just recording normal Let's Plays and gameplays, I think the 1080p 60 is more than enough. So I think this is still a nice package, and it's relatively cheap for what you get here. However, for me, I'm looking for something that can really record in 4K rather than the 4K 30 that only can be recorded in 4K 30 when you're putting in 4K 30. It's a lot of 4K 30s. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that. But overall, I still think I would recommend this if you can pick it up for a good price. Right now in Europe, this is around €200, and I think for the price, it's really nice. It's really low effort, plug and play, external capture card. And I think it's a nice thing to pick up. But if you're looking for anything that really can shoot and record in 4K 30 or 60, this is not the capture card for you. Overall, I think it's nice. Just a couple little things that I'd like to see improved in the future. Anyway guys, that's been my unboxing and review of the Elgato HD60S Plus. If you guys enjoyed this review, be sure to drop a like. Subscribe if you're new, check out the other videos on the channel. Also check out my merch linked below every video. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, as always, keep it saucy. Peace.